Welcome back to Pagan Pathways with Jessica. For today's video, I did 3 DIYs, which I made for my own bathroom. If you create your own version, I'd love to see it. You can tag me on social media. You can find my social media links available in my About section. If you're new to my channel, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time I upload. For the first project, we'll be using these wood planks that come in a pack of 5 or 6 from the Dollar Tree. Now we're going to take some white apple barrel paint, dump it out, add a little bit of water to thin it, and do a nice whitewash on these squares. So now I add 2 different colors of blue, one light, one darker, and some green. Then I add water to also thin those out and wipe off the excess as I go along here. I really want this to look like water, and to do that I really need these to blend well. And I continue to do this until they are well blended and look like water in my opinion. Towards the end you'll see I'm adding white so that I can make the waves. Now that I've got those off to the side to dry, I'm going to go ahead and use this Sculpey oven baked clay. You can buy it at Walmart. It's inexpensive for quite a lot. I use these silhouettes that I print out on my computer, and then I just go ahead and cut them out. Next, I'm going to press them into the clay and then use them as my guide so that I can cut the clay in the shape of the mermaid. And for this particular project, I did want mermaids since that's what I was doing my bathroom in. You will use 3 different ones so that you can put one on each of the square. Now, when you're finished with that, you'll want to take a clean piece of wax paper. I do add a piece of paper underneath the wax paper, but that was so I could carry it from my craft room to my kitchen. I do not stick the paper in the oven. Now you'll want to bake these according to the box directions. Now that those are in the oven, we're going to go ahead and do a frame around our squares. I use a roll of twine I picked up at Walmart. It's like $4.44, inexpensive, but you can use whatever you have on hand and whatever colors you want. I do burn the hairs off first and then I hot glue them on. One wasn't thick enough, so I went ahead and did a second row, and you'll do all 3 just exactly the same way. Now that we're done with that, we're going to take 3 pieces of that twine and a very long length and braid it together. We want to make sure it's long enough that it will hold all 3 of the plaques. Now we're going to put those off to the side and go ahead and give us a good coat on all of our mermaids. They are cool and dry now. We are using white with a little bit of brown to give us more of a beige color or an off-white, and we're going to coat them completely. Then we're going to take Dragonfly Glaze and give it a gloss finish. The color I'm using is a red, violet, blue shift. It is from Folk Art, and you can pick it up at Walmart. Now we're going to move those over to the side, and I'm going to use my silhouette as an outline so that I can go ahead and glue some sand on. I'm not actually using sand, I am just using sea salt. It is sparkly and it gives a nice little touch. Our next step is to go ahead and use some Mod Podge. I'm using the matte finish just to go over the top of the sea salt so that it gives it a nice hold and it keeps it from falling away. My next step is to go ahead and add some seashells. So I used some that I had picked up at Dollar Tree, and I just see which ones fit best to my liking, and then I add them on. I don't add any extra glue. I allow the Mod Podge to adhere to them. Okay, our next step, or rather the last step, is to put everything together now that it's dry. So I'm just going to figure out where I want the mermaids, how I want them, and then I'm going to glue them onto each plaque. Then I will take the rope and I will glue them onto the rope. I will suggest that you turn them upside down to glue them on, because when I tried doing it the front side, it didn't line up correctly. It was easier to judge where the middle was from the back. Project number 2 will be using these 2 frames from the Dollar Tree. We're going to take everything apart and then give them a coat of paint. At first I use apple barrel paint, but I don't like its coverage, and no matter which paint you use, you're going to need more than one coat to cover. So for the second coat I do use chalk paint, and it seems the coverage is much better. Next, I'm going to take the insides apart, and I'm going to use the paper as a pattern so I can fit it right on top of the back insert. That way then it'll fit perfectly. Alright, so we're going to do very similar to what we did on the first project. We're going to water down the paint to make it like watercolor, and then we're going to go ahead and make this look like water. If you do this project, you can of course do this any way you like, but this is the style I liked for my bathroom, and so that's why I did it that way. So you're going to do both papers. I will say that initially I had glued the paper down onto the frame and then painted it, but then it pulled away. So the best way to do that was to keep it separate, paint it, let it dry, and then glue it on. Now we're going to go ahead and add that second coat of paint using the chalk paint as I had stated earlier. Alright, our next step is to take our painted paper and to glue them onto the insert. As I stated earlier, I did make that mistake where I glued them on first and then I had to redo it. So hopefully you can miss that mistake. Anyway, so I take Aleene's tacky glue, I go all the way around, I lay it on, and then I stick a heavy book on top of it until the glue is completely dry. Alright, our next step is to take the white nautical rope that I picked up at the Dollar Tree and go around the top of the frame. I'm gonna apologize now, I lost footage of the large starfish and seashell that I used. I picked them both up at Walmart for $30 and something, and in the next step you'll see they're already glued on. I just used hot glue and glued them right on the rope. Now I'm gonna take the brown nautical rope that I picked up at Dollar Tree and I'm gonna glue it on the outside of the frame to create contrast between the white and the brown. Now that that's done, we're going to go ahead and put the inserts in, and we'll also have to make a hanger because the hanger that's on it is for side and we want it up and down, or at least that's how I wanted it. So I just use some more of that nautical rope, I glue it on there real well, and then I go hang them up. There they are finished. I hope you enjoyed. Alright, for this last project, I have these two crescent moons that I picked up for $5 a piece from Five Below, and one pizza pan from the Dollar Tree. Alright, I take all the labels off and give one good coat of paint with this Rust-Oleum satin white paint. Now, I'm going to take the crescent moons out of their box and I'm going to go ahead and get started prepping them. To do this, I use nautical rope from the Dollar Tree. I couldn't decide if I wanted to use brown or white at first, but I really think the white looked better, so that's what I went ahead and used. It only took one rope to do both moons, so I was pretty excited about that as well. So I'm going to go right on the outside of the frame of the moons. The one thing I will suggest here is when I glue it on, I actually don't leave myself any room to cut off the top, and I would redo that if I could. So there's a little hint for you. Also, the hot glue strings get on the mirror a lot, and if you're not careful, you can easily scratch it. Alright, now that that's done, I'm going to go around the whole outside of the moon with my hot glue gun to really tack it on there so it's glued from the front, the side, and the back. My next step is going to take some jute twine that you see on the roll. I had used it in the previous projects, and I'm going to go ahead and align the moon with that as well. I'm going to put it right where the rope meets the mirror. This gives us a contrasting of the brown and white and really goes with all the rest of the decor that I've put into the bathroom. Okay, our next step is going to go ahead and line that pizza pan as well. I want to use the white nautical rope and I want to use the brown nautical rope to keep giving me that contrast of the white and brown together. So I take the white and I'm going to glue it all the way around the top frame of the pizza pan, and then I'm going to take the brown and glue it on the inside. Now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and add a mermaid that I cut for my Cricut in the color of gold so it matches. And I'm going to go ahead and take one of those seashells and glue it right to her hand. Then we're going to go ahead and hot glue the crescent moons on. And I use a skewer to line them up so that both my crescent moons are even. The last step will be when we flip this over, I use jumbo popsicle sticks to add stability to the entire thing. I use 3 jumbo popsicle sticks and I cut them in half and I use 3 pieces on each side with lots of hot glue. The last thing we do is we add a hanger, and I just use a little bit of the nautical rope and lots of hot glue for that as well. I really love the way this project turned out. I might be going back to get some more of the crescent moons to do a few more projects. Again, if you make your own, make sure you tag me in social media so I can see your version. Alright, witches, I'm going to get out of here. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll talk soon.